Hi, I'm Heather from here booktubes, and today are my favorite books of 2020 so far. I have been seeing this going around and I was just like, yes. So there is a huge caveat to this video. I only picked one book from each author. Otherwise, this would just be all the books by my favorite authors that I've read this year, so I didn't do that. And I needed to not have like 45 books when it's not even all the way through the year. So one book per author. Here we go. This is in chronological order of me reading it. I've read over 300 books so far this year. That does include DNFs, because otherwise I pick them up again and you don't know how freaking annoying it is to try and read a book that you already DNF'd. So it does include DNFs. It's not a competition. That's how I choose to keep track. Don't come at me. But I've read over 300 books, and these are the top 12, one per author. So these are freaking good books. Basically the top 10%, give or take. No, this is like the top 3% of books that I read. Is that right? Mathing. So yeah, they were all really good books. First book is Desperate Measures, which is the first in the Wicked Villain series by Katee Robert. This is a Jafar and Jasmine BDSM dubcon play retelling that I always wanted. Now, you might think I'm perverted by that. I don't care. You cannot tell me, you can, but you can't tell me that you watched that hourglass scene in Aladdin when she was like seducing him to distract him without being like, this is a good story. I could go for this. That's what this is. It's perfection. I loved it. It's definitely a dark romance. Nothing like super terrible is gonna happen to her, so there's not abuse on page. It's not like hard to read, but it's definitely for a certain audience, and it's so hot. Like, just so hot. So, I mean, excellent book. 5 stars. Highly recommend. If it sounds interesting to you at all, you should probably read it because it's freaking amazing. Next, I have Fake It Till You Break It by Meagan Brandy. This was just so good. This is a fake dating bully-ish romance book set in high school, and I really enjoyed the character development, the development of the relationship, and it's my favorite Meagan Brandy book that I've read to date. I just found it really enjoyable while still being over the top and dramatic and high school drama. Next, I have Misadventures of a College Girl, which is Misadventures number 8 by Rowe. A bunch of the different books in this series are written by different authors. They're not necessarily connected. You can read them in any order. And this was so good. Such a healthy relationship. You have a virgin who is looking to get rid of her virginity, and a guy who's like, yeah, I'm not gonna just do that. I'll like help tutor you. They have such a good relationship, and I really liked the choices that they made and that the author made, and they're witty and funny and they just go for each other. If you want to see true love conquering realistic obstacles while also not just giving up your life and putting everything on hold for love, this is a great balance and really funny, really good. Next, I have Twisted Kingdom, which is Royal Elite number 3 by Rina. This is a dark bully romance set in high school with like a sociopath who is very rich, very powerful. This is the ending. This is them, getting everything, and just so many reveals and twists, and we finally get his perspective, and I just loved it a lot. One of the best bully romances I've ever read, for sure. There's a lot of things in this series that I normally would have major issues with, not be okay. In the first book, I was definitely very uncomfortable, and it was just like, But this third book, everything. He treats her better. All the things. I don't know. I just love it. I just love it. I kind of love a man that will like kill somebody because they practice their woman. Next I have House of Earth and Blood, which is Crescent City #1 by Sarah J. Maas. This was not my favorite Sarah J. Maas book. It was not. However, it was still an excellent book. And I think some of it is just expectations, but I still really loved it. I still want to know what happens. I really feel like this first book is just all set up. Like, I feel like it's all set up for what we're going to get, and the rest of the series is a slow burn, which I'm not a fan of because I don't have the patience, but so good. I just think there's so much foreshadowing. I think so many things are going to happen. It's an urban fantasy, except that the city is a made-up city. It's not New York or anything like that. And we follow a half-fae. Also, there's angels and many other paranormals. There's a lot. If you haven't heard about this book, I genuinely don't know where you've been, but it's really good. But probably not good as an introduction to Sarah J. Maas. And if you've already hated her other books, I don't think that this is going to be the one to change your mind. This is very much still in her style, right? So you either like her or you don't. Next I have Deacon, Unfinished Hero #4 by Kristen Ashley. This book is so emotional. Let me tell you, if you do not want to cry in this book, do not freaking listen to the songs that are mentioned at a certain part. Don't listen to them because you will cry. And if you don't, more power to you. You are impressive. I don't know. I just really love this book a lot. I can still remember like actively what happens and how I felt about the characters. You have this guy who is just dead inside, and you have this girl who is just working at getting something for herself and is sweet, and they don't get together for years. Which again, not a fan of. I don't have the patience, but I don't know. There's just something about seeing people who have given up on life, I guess, finding happiness, like pure bliss with the person that's meant for them. That's what this is. Again, if you don't want to cry, don't listen to the songs, but it's so good. Next I have Love Her or Lose Her, which is Hot and Hammer #2 by Tessa Bailey. This is a fantastic book for anybody in a long-term relationship. It talks about love languages. It talks about realizing that not everything that's wrong with your relationship is the other person's fault. And it's just so sweet. It's second chance romance of a married couple. We start off with her wanting a divorce. You get a lot of this set up in the first book, which is about a different couple. They love each other. They have always loved each other, but their marriage has broken down to the point where it's not healthy for them to just continue. And it's them getting to a good place and finding love again, just finding happiness. And it's so good. It's so good. And it just helps remind you to treat your person right and to love on them. Next I have Counterfeit Love by Jessica Gadziala. This is just maybe my favorite book of hers I've read this year. I don't know, those two characters, I just love them. I just love them. He is such a cinnamon roll, and I like alpha males. Like that's my type in books. And he's such a cinnamon roll, but he's not weak, right? He's not wishy-washy, but also he doesn't have problems with his own masculinity. Like, he's good. And he just treats her so good. She has a lot of issues because of trauma in her past, but specifically sexual abuse from human trafficking. And he just does such a good job of reading her and giving her whatever she needs. And he's a counterfeiter, and she's taking down human traffickers, and it's just the perfect match. And not to spoil anything for you, but the whole way the plot goes and the way the two characters in the relationship handle the plot, I feel like that's a huge part of why I love this book. Next I have Baby in the Late Night Howlers by Kathryn Moon. This is a paranormal, Omega-verse, reverse harem, motorcycle club fantasy book, and it's freaking amazing. I did not know that you could mix that many things together and get something good out of it, but she did, and it's good, and I really, really loved it. I loved the way they treated other women in the book. I loved the way they treated each other. I loved the healthy communication. I loved that one person didn't decide everything for everybody else. I just thought it was a really excellent example. So there you go. It was great. Next I have Buy a Thread by Lucy Score. So this was a great book that has a lot of things that I typically hate, and I loved it. So there's a grumpy boss, check, but she has too much pride to accept help, and their pride and their issues get in the way a lot, and it's like, if you would just freaking communicate, just accept a little bit of help, life wouldn't have to be so hard. But, and then also there is dementia represented, the dementia of a parent, and I've said before that that has been present in my life, and so that's not something I usually like to read about, but that was really well done. There's a lot of really serious issues tackled in this book while still being funny and humorous and sweet and charming, and just it was really, really good. Next I have Let Me Love You, which is McClain Brothers #1 by Alexandria House. Alexandria House's heroes, they just treat their women so freaking good, and I love it. And this is a rapper who makes a really bad first impression on her heroine, and she's like having none of it. And he knows what he wants. He goes after it. He makes it up to her. He does all these things. And it was 2 single parents, and I really enjoyed them. They were just so good, and we get introduced to the whole family of McClains, and they all get their own books. And I haven't finished the series because I've been waiting, because I really like the books. I don't want to make my way through the entire backlog of her books, but really sweet romances while also tackling issues. Last but not least, we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is the first in the Brown sisters by Talia Hibbert. So Chloe Brown has fibromyalgia. So one of my friends has this and struggles, right? And she's one of the most productive, kindest, sweetest, caring people that I know. And I don't know how she does anything. And she's just amazing. So that was part of the reason that I really wanted to read this book. Chloe has a near-death experience and realizes that she has kind of just given up on life and is existing. Decides to change that. Through changing that, she meets Red, and he's so sweet. The final conflict was a little like, this didn't need to happen, but the whole thing is sweet. Really good representation of a chronic illness. Clever, funny humor, and really good character work. Like, you really knew and felt for these people. That's it for my favorite books that I've read so far this year. 1 per author. What are the best books you've read? If you've made a video, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.